Hello my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop over on the dark side, the metal working side, what I call Studio M. I want to introduce you to a major project. This is not a little simple thing. A lot of you are going to say you should just quit wasting your time and go buy a new one. Yeah, well, fine. A couple $1,000s later, you'd have what you need. Like I said, it's a major project, but it'll probably only take me 6-7 hours to do it, and I'll save a couple $1,000s. It's hard work, but guess what? I kind of enjoy this kind of work. So there you go. It's a win-win all the way around. What is the project? Well, you can see here I have this old bucket, and I turned it into a grapple bucket. What I didn't realize is how badly worn the bucket was already when I put the new grapple on there. Look over here on the floor. It's called the thumb. It was a kit. I didn't make that part, although I did make a duplicate of it right here on my mini skid steer. In fact, my mini skid steer carried all of that in here today in the rain. It's absolutely soaking, raining out there. Got my coat completely soaked. It was just a whole thing. What I plan to do is to cut this apart, straighten it out, re-weld it, and really reinforce it a lot. What am I going to do that with? A large part of it, I'm going to use this new ArcCaptain Cut50 plasma cutter. So I'm going to cut a lot of that thing apart using this new machine sent to me by ArcCaptain. I'm very proud to have it. I've been very happy with my ArcCaptain welder they sent me. So I'm assuming I'm going to be the same way with this plasma cutter. We're going to get started right after this. I've already tried drying this thing off a little bit because I'm telling you, we were soaked. Everything was soaked. It's raining pretty hard out there. I've got it somewhat dried off, but I'm going to dry it off some more so that I can mark on it. My idea is to cut this out, take this bent stuff over to my big metal press, my big shop press, and straighten it out with the press, and then weld it back in here and then reinforce it really, really good. This is my idea. Now, I just bought this yesterday, never used one of these before in my life. It's supposed to be a silver streak welder's pencil for marking on steel, and it's not supposed to go away with heat. I have no idea. I've never used one before. I'm just gonna eyeball this because what else can you do on something like this? Oh, I like the mark already. I'm kind of surprised it marks as well as it does. I've never used one of those before, but I'm telling you right now, I already like it. It really makes a good visible mark. Can you see the mark down there? Let me zoom in a little bit more, maybe you can see it. But anyway, it's a very visible mark. Let's see if it stays visible as I start cutting. I'm going to fire this plasma cutter up here in just a moment and get started. Thought I'd show you how this plasma cutter works. You hook it up to your air source, and then you have a gauge over here. You might be able to see on the gauge that I have about 60 psi of pressure there. I put a quick connect coupler on the air inlet there so I could connect it to my air source very easily. It comes with a different type of hose, and that's perfectly acceptable. It's just that I had this available, so I'm using it. So there's a better look at the connector there. And it just runs back to my air source over here in the corner. The thicker metal you cut, the more air pressure you need. Typically, I set it around 40 or 50, somewhere in there, about 50 usually. And we might have to go a little more on this. We'll find out as we get started. I have the ArcCaptain ground clamp right there. This plasma cutter conveniently comes with a converter plug so that you can plug it into regular AC outlets, just like a 30 amp outlet would work just fine, I'm sure. So I'm going to use it with the regular native 220 plug, and just to show you, you could plug this in here and then you can plug this into a regular outlet. But we're not going to do that. We're going to plug it straight into the wall with 220, which is my welder setup. After that, all we really have to do is turn on the unit. And there you go. Let's see, I've got it maxed out at 50 amps, and we're going to see how that works. Here we go. Now, I have not used this unit yet, so this is brand new to me. We're going to get started. There is a trigger lock here to keep you safe from pressing the trigger accidentally. Basically, the way this works, air pressure and turns the metal and everything into a plasma. I don't know the science behind it. I don't even care about the science behind it. But that's why they call it a plasma cutter. And it will saw through stuff very quickly, very easily, and you're not using any of your resources like oxygen, in terms of you don't have to have bottled oxygen or some other bottled gas. You just use regular air pressure, which is awesome. So to me, this beats a cutting torch all to heck. Let's see if it works. We'll find out. Hey, it cuts just fine. Now my only problem is I couldn't see this line. I think I have this a little dark, so I'm going to lighten this up, this helmet. I'm going to lighten it down to 10. Maybe that'll help me see my line better. Lighten it up a little bit more. Maybe that'll help. It's doing a great job. It really is. I'm a little hesitant here because I don't have a straight edge to follow. Well, the air compressor kicked on, and so I decided to wait there a minute and let that kick back off so I could tell you that I believe I'm cutting through some extra thick braces under here and stuff. I mean, the actual sheet metal is only about 1/4 inch thick, but then there's braces under that, and it seems to be cutting all the way through everything. We'll find that out here in a minute, but I believe that's what we're doing. So we're going to continue on. This thing is working fine. I'm just having trouble seeing. Sometimes this helmet seems to go extra dark and then I can't see. So that's why I stopped. Another cool feature of this is once you pull the trigger stays on until you pull it again, which is really nice. It's less fatiguing. You don't have to concentrate on holding the trigger in. I really like that. We might be done. Hard to tell. Probably have to hit it with a hammer, but I think it might be done. I can't tell if I'm cutting through the bottom stuff or not 100%. So I'm going to put on my ear protection and then hit it a few times and see if it starts to come loose. Well, the answer is no. I think there's some braces underneath there that I wasn't getting through. I have an overhead electric winch is really all it amounts to. It's made by Harbor Freight, and it's a blessing and a curse. Sometimes when you press the up arrow, it gets stuck and it'll just keep lifting, and it's just aggravating. So that might happen. We're just going to lift and see what happens. Well, that's what happened. It turned it over. Fortunately, nothing was in the way, nothing got hurt. And you can see I cut through very well, except maybe in a couple of thick places, and usually it's where the metal was loose from the back, like right here. The metal's a 1/2 inch from the back. That's why it didn't cut through it. So we can quickly cut through those spots now that we have it up where we can get to it. Okay, I've got my hearing protection on again. I'm going to hit it a couple of times and see if it's looser now. Yeah, it was actually perfectly cut through. It was just that the bins were hanging it up. It was just kind of interlaced in there. But it's fine. It's all cut through. Did a nice job. I'm really happy with that ArcCaptain plasma cutter. Okay, we're over here at my homemade shop press. And down here on the floor, you can see I have a foot pedal. And if I press this foot pedal, it'll do nothing because I haven't turned the air on. I just thought of that. So let me turn the air on. Okay, now that I have the air on, when I press this, you should hear the pump start working here. That worked good. That's the first time that's ever happened. Don't know what's going on. Huh. Oh, somebody's cut my hose. Somebody's cut my hose. Something fell on that hose and broke it. Well, I'll have to fix that now. Doggone it, I can't win for losing. Well, take 3, and we're doing it all live. I haven't tested it yet, so we'll see if it works the 3rd time. Yes, it's working. Now let me show you what that does when you press that. If you watch right here, this will start coming down. Watch. Comes down nice and slow and controlled, but that's better than me having to hand pump it. Now I can hand pump it as well, but you know, on a single job, one bend or something, or a few bends, it's fine to hand pump it. But when you got a whole bunch of bends coming, and I know we do, it might as well set it up for the air, and that's what we did here. The way I start is I just start, and we'll see how it goes after that. All right, here we go. Wow, that's doing pretty good. It's bending that steel right back out. I kind of had my doubts, I'll be honest. I'm going to do a little bit here and a little bit there until I get it going. I don't want to just bend it in one place. Great. I'm amazed. I didn't think it would do that much. Didn't mean to let it up that far, but anyway, we'll try it again. Let's see here. It's a little tricky maneuvering it around. Let's go there and try that. Well, that's way better than it was. It's nowhere near done, but you can see the process there, and it's working. So we're going to keep going. I'll just keep monkeying with it till I get it where I think it suits me, and that may be a while. Doggone thing's heavy, I can tell you that. Well, this is hard to tell, but that's pressed out a lot flatter than it was. Now, it's got some long twists and warps in it yet that I have to fix, but we're getting close. We've got it in the ballpark now. I just don't know how to get these warps out of it very easily, but I assume I'm going to have to spread these out and see what that does. Maybe I can press in between it and get it to work. We're going to find out right now. There's always some spring back, and you just kind of have to calculate what you think that's going to be. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry this back over there and see if I can fit it to the machine to just see where it really needs work. I know that this end needs to go down and this end needs to come up, and I don't know how to make that happen. That's a twist, and that's not easy. I'm just going to try this and see if this starts to help, but I doubt it. I'm usually pretty darn good at straightening metal. I've been doing that, again, most of my life, because I started out straightening aluminum arrows, and I could get them absolutely within 1/1000th of an inch straight. I could get them perfect. This is a little bit more difficult than an aluminum arrow, but the same kind of principles apply, believe it or not. Might need to go this direction. I think that might help. Let's see if this does it. I don't know. Can't tell for sure until I do it. Know this is kind of a futile effort because this steel is really strong. I have a 3-foot wrench on this, but you know, I don't think my shop press is anchored well enough to do this. It'll just turn the press over probably. No, I can't pull it hard enough. I'd have to have like the Bobcat pushing on that or something. Yeah, I don't know how to twist that. That's the problem, is getting it untwisted. I'm trying. We'll keep going until we get it. Well, my friends, this thing definitely needs more straightening, there's no question, but it's also starting to fall apart where some of the welds have broken. So I'm going to weld some of those things back to strengthen it up so that when I'm twisting on it, it'll, you know, I think it'll work better actually. Some people think, well, you're making it stronger, how are you going to bend it? Well, that's not the point. It's to keep it together, and you can actually push on some of these corners if they're welded, where I can't push on this area right now because it's not welded. And I thought I would try the ArcCaptain welder on this. Now keep in mind, this is just 110 welder or 120 welder, however you prefer to think of it. And I have never tried welding anything this strong, if you will. I'm going to use 7018 rod, and I'm going to turn this thing up quite a bit. I'm going to see where it'll go to. I'm going to turn it up to 125, and I think that'll burn this rod in pretty well, but I don't know for sure because I have never tried this. So here we go, first time for everything. Let me also just say that there's a better than average chance that we're going to throw a breaker on this, because this is really a lot to expect out of a 120 volt circuit. So, but you know, we'll see. I don't know if it will or not. Well, I haven't tried it. Okay, I got that tacked. Okay, got that tacked. Now I'm going to tack this corner. Well, there you go. I made it all the way across there without tripping a breaker. So let's take a look at the bead and see what that looks like. That looks really good. You know what the YouTubers like to say is, that ain't going nowhere. And I agree, it ain't going nowhere. That's welded now. We might as well get the rest of it welded. Well, looky there. Now, ordinarily, I'm not very proud when I weld a hole through 1/4-inch steel, but that'll give you some idea that this thing is penetrating, and it knocked a big old hole in it right there. But my point is that this welder stands up. I'm really happy with it. I'm going to turn it down and see if I can fill the hole in. Generally speaking, when you're filling a hole like that in, you go around it, go back around, and let it cool. Because if you just keep going, you're just going to melt it out again. There you go, I got her filled in there that time. What we'll do is we'll let that cool, and then we'll go back over it one more time. I'll turn it back up now. I'll turn it up to about 120. Like I said, that ain't going nowhere. Got another great big hole right here that we're going to weld up while we're at this. I got her turned back up to 125. We're going to try to fill this in and see how this goes. Well, we welded that whole thing too, and no breakers were thrown, so that's very, very, very good. That middle part was a really deep hole, and I'm welding it to the back plate that's behind it. So I'm going to go back over that part again and fill it back in some more. I think that will be sufficient. Well, there's one more place here that's cracked, and I'm going to weld that up too before I go back to trying to press some more. My friends, I want to tell you right now, this little ArcCaptain Mig145 Pro, it is absolutely a legitimate welder. It's a 110 welder, and I'm welding heavy duty stuff, and it's just burning it right in. I love this welder. It is just unbelievable. I want to be absolutely clear. I have already met my commitment to ArcCaptain. I don't need to promote their welder any further. I'm only promoting it to tell you that if you're looking to get a decent welder, and especially one that's portable, that you can plug in pretty much anywhere, you can't beat this thing. And I'm just telling you straight up and down. I got no reason to lie. They're not giving me anything else to tell you this. It's a done deal. I'm just telling you because it's true. And I'll try to give you a close-up of that weld there that we just did. It looks really good to me. I don't know how you could do much better. Well, I flipped it over, and yet I can see where I welded on the, in fact, the weld came through where I welded through that hole, but I cleaned this off, and I'm going to put a bead across the back side as well. So let's take a look at that weld and see how it did. Yeah, that's really good. I don't know if this will work, but I'm going to give it a try. Putting it on the anvil. Going to beat on it a little bit. Well, it's many times better than it was when I started. But I gotta be honest, I would love it if I could get a lot more out of this, because it's You know, it's sagging right here and it's twisted. If I could twist this down and twist this up a little bit, it needs to twist right about in the middle of here. You know, if I had more room on my press, it wouldn't be quite so hard, but I'm kind of limited on room, and that's where the real problem really comes in. I don't know, I gotta give it some more thought. Well, I think I might have a way to make this work. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna press on this center one here and let these other two sit flat. I don't know that it's gonna fix it, but it might help it. So here we go, let's let her rip. Well, that's sort of starting to work. This is trying to raise, which I need this to go down, so maybe if I put something in here, I don't know if that'll work or not though. Might break my press doing this. Might actually break something. I hope not. We'll see. I don't think that's really doing that much. It might have actually helped. It's not that far out of alignment now compared to where it was. Looking down at it, you know, these three teeth need to be in alignment, and they're not. You know, they're not too far out of alignment compared to the way they were. Man, they were really bad before. So we're getting much closer. These two here, I'm going to say, are pretty close. That one down there, if I could think of a way to make that one come a different direction. Well, I didn't turn the camera up there to let you see that. It might have got a little bit more in line. I pressed on it. Still not very good though. Well, it's getting close to wanting to go back in there now. So I'm going to straighten out some of this mess if I can. I'm going to use very dainty maneuvers here, so get prepared. Like my dad always says, I think I'm forcing it now, but I got the biggest hammer I could get, and I'm still forcing it. I'm going to take a little lunch break. When I come back though, I think I'm going to take the ArcCaptain plasma cutter and make a relief cut right there, and then I can bend this back, and then I'll re-weld it. That's a lot easier than forcing it. Okay, I've got the ArcCaptain Cut50 hooked up again. And we're going to cut a relief across this so I can bend it, because I am tired of messing with it. I'm going to cut this one the other direction so you can see the sparks coming out. Okay, let's see if we can bend it now. Well, that made quite a difference. Now, that's not good enough, you understand. That was just to get this squared up. So I can put this piece back in here, get this all welded up square, then we'll beat that into submission over there once we get the rest of it welded up first. Okay, the way this goes together, it's going to be awkward. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a piece that goes under here, and there's a piece that goes under here. And so I've got that piece fed in under here, but it's not going yet. I guess I'm going to have to get a big persuader and see if that'll drive in there. Okay, that went in. Now this side went in too far. Might need a pry bar or something. Let me try that. Well, I tried a pry bar here. It's too far back under there, I think, to do any good. Just not working like I wanted it to. If this hadn't slid under there, it would have been perfect. Of course, it had to, because it couldn't sit there and not do that. That wouldn't be right, would it? Got to get the eye and ear protection on here, and I'm going to do some major pounding. Well, that's about 98% right. This, wouldn't you know, this piece here is under here and it's supposed to be on top. I think I'm just going to cut that with the plasma cutter. Now this is really thick. This is ½ inch thick. So I'm just going to cut straight through that and let that fix itself, hopefully. That looks pretty good. It's getting better. Might be able to beat that into submission. I think I still see a little bit yet. That looks pretty good. It's still pretty twisted. It don't want to match up perfectly. It's pretty close. The only part that's in alignment's right here. Tempted to weld that. I don't know if that'll work or not. Yeah, that's really twisted. If it wasn't twisted, it'd fit right there. It'd be no problem. Well, for lack of anything better to try, I'm going to try tack welding this plate right here. It's the only place it's flat and square. And then I'm going to see about torquing it into shape. I don't know if it'll work or not. The ArcCaptain Mig145 Pro, I have it turned up to 130. That's the hottest I've ever used it, and it's burning through, so it's actually melting the metal really, really well. Not a problem at all. I'm going to go back over that one time. That might have worked. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if I can line it up now. That's the problem. I may have to cut it loose again. But there's only one way to find out, and that's to try it. Okay, so I have this seam welded right here. Probably not strong enough to hold everything. Now that I look at it, I don't think it's lined up very well here. I think I'm going to have to take the plasma cutter and cut some more out of there. That's pretty good, but it needs a little bit more. Alright, I guess I'm gonna just take it in little pieces. I'm going to weld this up right here now, maybe all the way to here, and we'll see how it goes. That's all I can do, just a little piece at a time. Okay, I'm going to have some filler in here. Usually when I need filler, I just get either a bolt or screw or nails or something. I just take a little bolt like that, cut the head off, and lay it in the opening or the hole, and then hopefully we'll be able to weld that in place and fill it in. I just kind of ran over that fast to kind of melt it and let it fall into the hole. It's just a technique I use. Now I'll try to weld it. Great big hole right there. That looks real good. Now I'm going to try to fill in this hole. Probably going to have to turn the heat down a little bit on that. Turning it down to about 115. I had it at 130. Maybe I can fill this hole in now. Maybe. Alright, I'll let that cool off a little bit. Got quite a bit stacked up down in the hole. There's a backer behind there, so I'm filling into that backer and then welding up. It's, you know, it just is what it is. I'm not expecting perfection. I don't know if I can weld across these big holes or not. I'm just trying to build them up. I'm not really welding right now. I'm just kind of lining the edges of the hole. My back's starting to give out. That ain't good. Got her closed in pretty good. This big hole's still got a little problem. That's still a pretty good sized hole. Yeah, that hole there, that don't want to close up. I'll have to do something with that probably. May have to turn it down some more. Alright, that's pretty good. I think I'm going to clean up that area, go back over that and weld it one more time. You know, go over the whole thing and just make it one continuous weld because it's just piecemealed up. And then I may turn it over and see if I can get to that from the back side, because I don't know if I can or not, but weld up as much as I can from the back side. Then we'll start putting some pressure on the rest of this to get it in place. Well, I got the weld cleaned up pretty good. Now I'm going to go back over it. I got it back up to 125.
You've heard a song about a horse or two. Well, here's one more and I swear it's true. The finest horse you've ever seen.
Well, I believe that got that passed. Now we'll go down this direction.
His name was Phantom 614, a proud young stallion with head held high. His coat like satin under candlelight. His mane and tail, oh how they sheen. His name was Phantom 614.
Uh-oh, fell through. Didn't have it very thick there, apparently. Fell through the hole. Well, we'll let that cool off. I may have to put some more on that hole, but other than that, it went really, really well. Now I'm going to take a grinder and clean this backside up.
Though just a young man at the time, I knew that one day he'd be mine, and I would ride there like a king up on the back of 614. The trainer said, son, he can't be rode, but stay away, boy, or you'll be thrown. He said,
There's some scabbed on metal here. Actually what it is, it's metal that's wore off and there's just little thin pieces left. That's this piece right here. I'm going to see if I can chisel it off. I don't know if I can or not. Well, it's obviously more to it than I thought. Well, maybe the plasma cutter could come to the rescue yet again and get rid of that mess.
That horse is just plain mean. His name was Phantom 614.
Now I'm just melting that off is really all I'm doing with the plasma cutter. It's working pretty well. Okay, I'm going to try beating this thing into submission some more.
That horse and I, our souls were one. Without any fear, I climbed upon the back of the one they said was me. His name
It ain't playing fair, that's for darn sure. When I first welded that, I don't think this was back under there like it is. I think it's drawn under there. And that's, of course, because that makes it harder. It had to draw under there, it couldn't draw out. I'm going to have to turn it over, I think, to get to that, to cut that off. Can't reach it from there. I think I can get to what I need to cut right there. It just went under there just to make it difficult. If it hadn't gone under there, I think I could do this. But it's just under there far enough and it won't come out.
was Phantom 614, a one-man horse to me proved true. The people would stare as we ride through a sight which few have ever seen. His name was Phantom 614. His name was Phantom 614.
Okay, well, I was able to cut enough out of here with the plasma cutter, and now I got this part level to here, so I'm going to weld that, and then we'll beat the rest of this into submission. Just a little at a time. That's the way I'm doing it, and it's working, so I think it's going to be fine.
Lately the signs upon your face match the signs on the road I take. Slow down, don't turn left, dead end ahead. The caution light is lit as we head for the last exit. But I wonder what I'd find if I could drive through your mind.
What I'd find if I could drive through your mind. Would the road be rough or paved? Can your love for me be saved? A highway or gravel road, either way it's the same old load. But I wonder what I'd find if I could drive through your mind.
Well, I've cut out a lot more of that, and let's see if we can bend it and make it come up flush. Got to find my hearing protection for sure, because it kills my ears. Well, I could probably weld a couple more inches. I guess I'll do that. Just going to be a slow process. I'm going to keep stitching it up, and I'll show you what it looks like when I get her done. Well, I got the bucket all welded up, as you can see. And it's in pretty good shape. It ain't perfect. In fact, it's in way worse shape than I thought it was in, honestly. But the parts that I've done are good. I'm happy with all that. That's going to hold. But I've got to do some reinforcement. I stood it up on end, and I welded this back where I cut it off here on the edge. So even though it's bent, that's welded back together. And now I'm working on the other side, and I'm cutting off all the worn out metal that's on the back side of the, or on the bottom, I guess you'd say, of the bucket. So let's go around there and I'll show you what that looks like. If you look right there, there's a big piece of flat metal that I cut off the bottom. And all of that was covering this area, and it was just loose. It was just hanging on there. Now I'm going around and I'm trimming off all the extra flab that's still on there, but I'm definitely going to brace it up and make it a lot stronger. This back side here where the blade is broken, I'm going to fix that and weld that up solid. It's just a lot of work yet. Well, the sun's super bright. But anyway, you see I have a big heavy-duty jack there pushing the floor down. The seam is broken all the way across here. It was probably an inch above where it should be. So pushing it down with this, it pushed it down real tight. Now I'm going to weld that up. Just going to use 6011 for that seam. And that way I can turn the amperage way down and not burn holes through it, because this is thin stuff back there. At least by what compared to what we've been welding. so maybe I can get it packed real well. I'm going to have to turn it down some more. I turned it down to 85. I'm going to have to turn it down to 75. That stuff's so thin, I'm still burning through it. I can fill the holes back in, but it's really thin. Probably only about an 1/8 inch thick. Okay, I think I'm going to move the jack, and I've got enough to hold that spot anyway. The only thing bad about this jack is it's hard to push down. Plenty strong though. You know, I can't get a full swing on that, but I'll show you a trick. If you use a ball peen hammer, you know, as heavy as you've got, the heavier the better, of course. This one's pretty heavy. This one's about a 2-pounder probably. Anyway, if you use the ball peen end, it puts a lot more stress on the metal. It'll put a lot more bending force than it would if you hit it with the big flat edge. It's just physics, and it really bends the metal a lot better, especially when you can't get a good stroke on it like this, because this is in the way. They did a nice job. Yeah, that stuff's burning through easy. It's probably less than an 1/8 inch thick through the bottom there. Part of that's because it was thin stuff when they built it, and part of it's because it wore off over the years. Yeah, that'll hold it. Still got a real high spot right here, right where the jack was. I can't get to that to weld it while the jack's there. I got it about halfway down. I might have to put the hearing protection on. Yeah, that's going to have to be good enough. I think it'll work. You know, you always want a little bit more and a little bit better, but that's going to have to work. You can't get a good bead on it because this front part's higher than the back part. For the most part, I'm just blobbing it in there, using it as like filler material, and then I'll come back and weld over the top of all of that. It's just all you can do sometimes. You know, we're dealing with something that's really wore out here, just really tore up. But I think I can make it serviceable for my needs. All I need is a grapple bucket to grab these trees and brush and things. It doesn't have to dig or anything like that. I may have to turn it down some more as it just keeps cutting through. I'm going to turn it down to 67. That's pretty light. I'm going to consider that area done too. Now I'm going to move down here to this other area. Get the jack back in there and see if we can't get that part down and tacked in place. Boy, this jack is heavy. A lot of straining, leaning over that far. And once again, right where the vise was, it's not down. So I guess I'll get into pounding mode again. We can make do with that. It ain't great, but it'll work. Oh, I gotta get down lower. This is killing me, leaning over that far. it ain't the best idea, but I'll use this. It's really awkward to weld because you're welding behind the seam is the problem, and it just ain't good. Yeah, I've got it turned down so darn low, it's just hard to weld. I gotta give that a rest a while because that's killing me. I bent it over and it's hard to weld. It's not an easy weld at all. Well, I've got her welded up about as much as it needs to be right now. Now I'm going to scale all this and clean it off. And then I'm going to weld on this side and repeat all the same welds, but on this side, basically. So, use this needle scaler. Well, I'm on the final phase of welding it back. In other words, I've got some more welding to do to get it back to sort of like it was. Of course, it's not even as good as it was, but it'll get it close. And then I'm going to try to figure out ways to brace it up much more solid. And that might be the real tricky part, but I'm going to give it my best shot. This part right here, I'm going to weld. I welded it on the other side. I'm going to weld this side, and then I'm going to take a sledgehammer and try to beat this flat. I cleaned this weld off, then I beat this whole area flat with this sledgehammer, and the weld held just fine, but that was really bowed, and now it's flat, or fairly flat. I don't know how well this will show up, and I can't really get the camera any closer, but this area right here is just a bunch of what I call chicken poop weld. It's just piled up mess. And there was a big hole there, and they should have just put a piece of metal in there and welded around it, but they chose to fill it with weld. And I've ground it down relatively flat. I'm just going to weld over the top of all of that and try to tie it all together. That may not work. If it doesn't work, we're going to just cut it out of there, but I'm going to just try welding over the top first and see if that works, and just clean it up. I'll show you the after here in a moment. I don't know if you can see it any better or not, but I guarantee you it's at least all one congruent weld now. It's all tied together. I burned through in several places and filled it back in and smoothed it over, so it's at least solid weld now. It's instead of just chicken poop welds. That's the best I can do with it right now. I think what I'm going to do is lay a piece of angle across here and weld it on both sides, and that'll cover up 90% of it anyway. Now I'm going to weld this back seam all the way across, and I'm going to turn it welder down to 75 and just use 6011. Well, you can see I've tacked this heavy angle. This is a 1/4 inch thick angle. Tacked it down in 2 places. This side here doesn't match it very well, so I'm going to take a sledgehammer and see if I can beat it in a little bit. A little bit closer is better than a little far away. So let's see if it works. The answer is not so much. I don't have a good swing yet. If I could get a longer swing, it wouldn't be that bad. I think I could do it. Still can't get enough swing. That worked pretty good. I got some of the back of it tight. I'll go ahead and weld what I've got tight, and then I'll beat on it some more. Yeah, that's all you can do. I'm going to see if I can beat this in now. I don't think it's going to go, but I'm going to give it a try. Much thicker right there. I don't know if I can get enough swing to do any good. Gotta get the hearing protection. That's pretty good. It's better than I thought it would get it. I'm going to see if I can bend this metal to fit this, because this isn't going to come in. That's over a half inch thick, 3/4 inch thick. In fact, I might get lucky. Yep, that worked.
Each day on the interstate, as I'm pulling a load of freight, I think of you with each passing sign I see.
Well, I'm going to do a lot more of that welding, and I'll show you later. Well, my friends, I've decided that's all I'm going to do. I was going to put a brace under it or across it, and it just isn't real practical just because of stuff. It's hard to explain. There's stuff in the way. It's just not level. I've just decided I'm going to go with this, and if it would happen to break again, well, then I'll weld it back and brace it under there. But quite honestly, I think it's like 4 or 5 times stronger than it was the day I built it originally, or put this grapple on it. Now this grapple goes on very easy. I didn't show you putting that on, but it's just the 3 pins up there, those 3 pins. That's all it is. You just stick them and line them up and slide a pin through and you're hooked up. Then the hydraulics have to hook up to the Bobcat, of course, those hydraulic lines. It's really a wonderful tool to have, especially when you're doing sawmill work and firewood work, and even brush clearing and things like that. Anytime you're picking up a lot of brush or big piles of stuff, it's a really handy thing. I just don't know if it's going to hold up or not. Only time will tell. You can see I did get the corner braces welded in there. Got them in on both sides and they're fully welded. So those braces will help a lot because the corners were given, especially on that corner, it was really weak over there. So the next thing you'll see is me using this thing. Well, I lied. I hooked the grapple up to my mini skid steer and I raised it up because I'm going to put a hook on here. This hook is really handy. I had it on here once before and somehow or another it broke off. But anyway, I'm going to put a new one on here. And what this does is when I grab a log on the end, where that round log is right here, it'll hold on to it with this hook. You can stab that down in the log and drag a log backwards up a hill. Without that, it's kind of difficult unless there's a limb to grab a hold of the edges. It'll slide right out of this. So this hook is really handy. Well, this was just a cut off on a circle. In fact, I think it was when I was making the log splitter for the mini skid steer or for the mini excavator. This was just a cutoff, just an extra piece. I don't throw this stuff away. I save just about every piece because eventually I'll find a place where it fits, and right here's where it fits. All I did was just cut a little piece off there. I can weld it right there. If I want to, I could fill this hole in, but it's of no consequence one way or the other than it's possibly that could be a weak point when you're dragging a log backwards, but this is really thick steel. It ain't gonna break. I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna get that welded on. Thought I'd show you that I did clean that off really well. And now we're gonna clamp this tooth on here, and I'm just eyeballing it for center. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just noticed that the whole thing is cockeyed. I did not notice that before. I wonder how that got bent. Something's actually bent on this thumb. I didn't realize that. But if I disregard that and look at this, I think I'm fairly square. I don't think it's going to make any difference one way or the other, so let's get her welded. Okay, I'm going to use 7018 rod, which will be really strong, and I've got the welder turned to 120 amps. Okay, that's got that one welded on the top. I'll tack both corners down here. Okay, that's tacked up pretty good. Take that off. Off camera, I also did check to make sure it was square with this piece, and it is. So it's in good shape.
The road ahead looks rough, and the travel will sure be tough. But I wonder what I'd find if I could drive through your mind.
I wonder what I'd find
Yeah, the beauty of that is it'll grab a log and hold that log as you're backing up. And the thing about it is that it doesn't get in the way for normal operations when you're just grabbing. So it's perfect. Looks like that's really welded very well, so I don't think I need to do any more. I don't know if it's worth putting another coat on it or not. I might do that. I might just put another coat right over the top of it.
Through your mind, would the road be rough or paved? Should your love for me be saved? Highway, gravel road, either way it's the same old load. But I wonder what I'd find if I could drive through your mind.
I'm definitely not the best welder in the world, and especially when it comes to vertical welding, but you can't hardly do it much better than that. I'm sure a professional could. I'm nowhere near a professional, and that's about as good as it needs to be, so I'm good with that. I think that'll hold a very long time. I mean, it could break off again, but you know what actually broke on this was the this metal actually chipped out and broke out. You know, I guess it made this metal brittle or something. Anyway, it left a big dish on this side especially. This side here, the weld kind of stayed on this, and it broke off the other piece. But I imagine what happened was it came loose here first, and then it just twisted off. Anyway, it looks like it should hold. Well, my friends, I'm down under a hill here. It's really hard to convey how steep hills are, but this is pretty darn steep. I'm only 6 feet from the Bobcat, and the tracks are about level with my waist. So, I mean, it's steep, you know, it's really steep. I've got 2 cedar logs down here in the bottom of the creek. They're not going to be easy to get out of here. I cut them off of this stump right here. In fact, I've already hauled the 2 bigger pieces up to the top with the grapple bucket. So I'm using my grapple bucket. This is how we're going to end the video, is showing you that we can use this grapple bucket. I don't know if I can get down there and then get back out of there. If I take the grapple bucket down there, I'm afraid I might get stuck. I might just take a chain and hook onto these. Okay, we're going to see if we can get all these loaded on here. Quite honestly, I'll probably have to hand load some of them because there's 4 of them. I'd like to get them all in one trip. I don't know if I can do that. Well, not the most eloquent solution, but I'm going to try to get them home like this. I'll show you what it looks like once I get them back home. And hold the camera, so I'm gonna just show you what it looks like once we finally get them dumped off. Well, there you go. There's the results of all that hassle, and it was quite a hassle, I'll be honest with you. But I didn't notice this one had, it looks like almost like a lightning strike down it or something. Maybe all of them have that, I don't know. That's gonna suck if that's the case. I didn't see that till just now, honestly. But hopefully this biggest one here, the bottom one, I can get 3 sets of shingles, 18-inch long shingles out of this. The other ones I'm planning to make 2x6s or 2x whatever I can get out of them. The next biggest one over there, I should be able to get some good 2x6s out of that one, I think. Bottom line is, the grapple bucket works really well. I'm really happy to have that back in shape. Thanks in part to ArcCaptain, the plasma cutter, and the welder. Really enjoy my ArcCaptain equipment. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next video.